Everyone keeps telling you that being in a relationship is the ultimate goal. But what if the real power lies in staying single? This isn't about rejecting love. This is about rising into a version of yourself that won't settle, won't break, and won't lose your identity in the process. Today, we're talking about why choosing to stay single intentionally may just be the smartest and strongest decision you ever make. There is a huge difference between choosing someone because you want them and needing someone because you don't know who you are without them. When you stay single intentionally, you take the time to become emotionally independent, and this is one of the most valuable strengths you can ever develop. Emotional independence doesn't mean you never feel lonely or never desire companionship. It means you don't crumble without someone's constant reassurance. It means you know who you are, what you stand for, and how to stabilize yourself emotionally instead of depending on someone else to do it for you. Most people rush into relationships looking for comfort, validation, or escape. But when you stay single to build yourself first, you learn to provide those things on your own. When you are single, you learn to sit with your emotions, face them, and understand them. Instead of distracting yourself with a relationship, you face your insecurities and emotional habits directly. Whether it's overthinking, being overly attached, seeking validation, or fearing abandonment, your single phase gives you the mirror and the room to fix these patterns. You start recognizing that your happiness is not a responsibility you hand over to someone else. You stop expecting others to rescue you emotionally. Instead, you build the emotional muscle to handle life, stress, challenges, and uncertainty with your own mindset and resilience. And that emotional maturity makes you far stronger than someone who jumps into a relationship simply to fill a void. When you build emotional independence, your decision-making changes. You no longer stay in relationships out of fear of being alone, fear of losing someone, or fear of starting over. You stay only when the person adds genuine value to your life. You stop chasing temporary closeness and start protecting long-term stability. You understand that needing someone to feel complete is risky because when they leave, your entire emotional balance collapses. But when you learn to regulate yourself, when you teach yourself to be your own support system, no breakup, disappointment, or rejection can shake your identity. You won't break down because your emotional foundation was never built on another person in the first place. Being single teaches you to control your emotions instead of letting your emotions control your choices. You learn self-soothing instead of emotional dependency. You learn patience instead of impulsiveness. You learn how to comfort yourself during hard days rather than begging for emotional presence or attention. You learn to give love to yourself through discipline, routines, self-care, self-respect, and personal growth. You begin understanding that you deserve connection, not rescue. You deserve companionship, not dependency. You deserve mutual support, not emotional babysitting. Your heart becomes stronger and your mind becomes clearer. And clarity is power, because emotional independence isn't just about being okay alone. It's about knowing how to stand strong even when life tests you. Another major transformation that happens during this phase is self-validation. Instead of constantly wondering whether you're enough, whether you're attractive enough, smart enough, or worthy enough, you begin to validate yourself from within. You set personal goals, and every time you hit one of them, your confidence rises. You prove to yourself that you can build, grow, succeed, and make progress without depending on someone else's admiration or encouragement. The praise you used to crave from others, you now earn from yourself. And when you get to that stage, your emotional center shifts. You begin choosing people not because you need them, but because they align with your happiness, values, and peace. Your life stops revolving around emotional survival and starts revolving around intentional connection, growth, and contribution. One of the greatest gifts of staying single is that it gives you the space to discover who you truly are, without influence, pressure, or emotional noise from another person's expectations. When you're single, you are not trying to impress anyone, fit into anyone's standards, or mold yourself to be enough for a partner. Instead, you get to explore your natural identity. What do you value? What brings you joy? What kind of lifestyle do you want? When you are constantly in relationships, it's easy to lose yourself. You start adjusting your choices based on someone else's preferences, opinions, routines, and needs. But when you choose to remain single for a season, you get to strip away all external influences and meet yourself clearly again, the real you beneath societal expectations and relationship habits. And During this time, you start paying attention to your interests and passions without compromise. Maybe you discover you enjoy quiet mornings with coffee and books. Maybe you enjoy fitness, traveling alone, creative hobbies, or building a business. Maybe you realize you value independence more than constant companionship. You begin to reconnect with forgotten dreams or explore new ones that you never had time for when your energy was invested in maintaining relationships. You start making decisions that serve your growth, not someone else's comfort. This is where identity becomes solid. You learn what fulfills you, what drains you, and what inspires you. And once you know these parts of yourself, you stop being easily influenced, manipulated, or controlled. You build a life that reflects you, not a life designed to make someone else stay. Another powerful part of discovering your identity while single is learning your boundaries and values. Without the distraction of romantic emotions, you can objectively evaluate what matters to you. You reflect on past patterns. What did you tolerate that you shouldn't have? What behaviors felt disrespectful? What qualities do you truly desire in a future partner? Not just physically, but emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. By being alone, you stop settling for shallow connection and start valuing deeper alignment. You become aware of your worth and the energy you bring into someone's life. And once you develop that clarity, you naturally stop chasing people who don't respect your value. You rise above low standards because you finally understand your identity and what you deserve. You no longer choose love out of loneliness. You will only choose it out of alignment. Staying single also teaches you how to enjoy your own company. You stop viewing solitude as emptiness and start viewing it as freedom. You get comfortable with silence, with thinking, with reflecting, with growing. You become emotionally self-sufficient, and that gives you a powerful sense of inner peace. If presence from someone else comes, it becomes a bonus, not a necessity. Your life stops being paused until love arrives. Instead, you're building, exploring, evolving, and experiencing life fully in the present. Many people fear being alone because they haven't built a relationship with themselves. When you face that fear, embrace solitude, and create a fulfilling routine on your own, you come out stronger, more mature, and more self-aware than ever before. You return to relationships not as someone seeking identity, but as someone who already has one. As you grow through this phase, your perspective on relationships changes too. Instead of choosing partners based on temporary emotions, physical attraction, or convenience, you start choosing based on long-term compatibility and personal values. You begin to understand that a partner should complement your life, not define it. Because you already know your path, you won't bend your purpose to fit someone else's plan. You won't lose yourself in love again. Love becomes partnership, not dependence. Connection becomes addition, not foundation. And self-identity becomes your anchor, not something you trade for attention or acceptance. When you choose to stay single for a season of growth, something powerful happens. You start understanding your value on a deeper level. Far too many people rush into relationships before they know what they truly deserve, or worse, before they even know who they are. They accept bare minimum effort, inconsistent communication, and shallow connections simply because they fear being alone. But when you remain single intentionally, you eliminate desperation. You remove fear from the equation, and suddenly your vision becomes clear. You see that love is not something scarce you must cling to. It's something you can choose wisely, from a place of strength. Standards don't rise when you get into relationships. They rise when you learn to be okay without one. Being single gives you the emotional distance needed to reflect on what you accepted in the past. You start identifying behaviors you used to tolerate: disrespect, inconsistency, emotional immaturity, poor communication, and you recognize how those experiences shaped your self-worth. Instead of blaming others, you begin to ask yourself meaningful questions. Why did I settle for less? Why did I ignore red flags? Why did I love so quickly and question myself instead of questioning their behavior? This reflection is not self-criticism. It's self-correction. You learn your lessons not with resentment, but with maturity. And with each realization, your standards rise naturally. You stop settling, not because you are stubborn or difficult, but because you finally understand the difference between loneliness and peace, between chemistry and compatibility, between attention and respect. The single phase also builds confidence through independence. When you prove to yourself that you can take care of your emotions, your finances, your goals, and your life without depending on someone else, your self-worth strengthens. You don't fear losing someone because you no longer fear being alone, and that is when you become powerful. People with strong self-worth are not easily manipulated or convinced. They do not cling to empty promises or shallow attention. They don't chase love, they attract it. They don't beg for loyalty, they embody it and expect the same. They don't believe they are lucky if someone chooses them. They know they also bring value, stability, depth, and substance into a relationship. When your worth becomes clear to you, mediocre love becomes unattractive. During this phase, you also stop romanticizing potential. You start valuing reality. Instead of falling for words, you observe actions. Instead of getting attached to promises, you pay attention to consistency. You stop trying to fix or save people and realize that true relationships happen when both individuals are whole, willing, and emotionally ready. You no longer invest your energy in relationships that drain you, confuse you, or limit you. Your standards evolve from, I just want someone who loves me, to, I want someone whose life aligns with mine, whose values match mine, who respects my boundaries, and who meets me at my level. You start prioritizing peace over passion that burns quickly and destroys slowly. You look for stability, clarity, and emotional safety, not because you are boring, but because you understand the value of your heart and time. With higher standards, your energy shifts too. You stop entertaining people who are inconsistent with their communication, unclear with their intentions, or casual with your feelings. You start choosing connections that are intentional and purposeful. You surround yourself with people who respect you, uplift you, and match your energy. You become selective, not because you think you're better than everyone, but because you finally know what you bring to the table. You know your worth, your loyalty, your compassion, and your potential. And that knowledge becomes your boundary. You don't lower yourself to fit into someone's life. You choose someone who meets you at your level and walks beside you instead of pulling you down or holding you back. Staying single gives you something many people underestimate: freedom, not the superficial kind that's about going out or talking to whoever you want, real freedom, the kind that allows you to fully focus on yourself, your purpose, your lifestyle, your dreams, and your evolution without compromise. When you're in a relationship, especially one that demands emotional attention or constant involvement, your life naturally adapts around someone else's needs and schedule. That's not a bad thing when the relationship is healthy and aligned, but if you enter partnerships before truly knowing yourself, you end up reshaping your whole identity too early. Being single gives you breathing space. It gives you time to prioritize you without guilt, without divided energy, and without emotional pressure to constantly explain your choices or justify your ambitions. This phase teaches you the power of choosing your direction freely. You can pursue career goals, explore new interests, travel where you want, build your routine, and invest in personal development without compromise. No one is questioning why you're spending time on your studies, why you're working late, why you're dedicated to fitness, or why you're building financial stability. Your life becomes solely about your progress. You get to experiment, take risks, and make decisions based on your intuition and vision. When you have this space, you discover what truly excites you. You begin to see how capable you are when you don't rely on emotional comfort from someone else. You learn discipline, resilience, and independence, qualities that make you stronger, not just for yourself, but for your future relationships and life goals. Another layer of freedom comes from emotional clarity. When you're not caught up in romantic emotions, you see life more objectively. You make choices with logic and long-term thinking instead of temporary feelings. You observe your habits, your triggers, your strengths, and your weaknesses without distraction. You learn to love solitude instead of fearing it, and that self-connection builds inner peace. When you aren't constantly adjusting your emotional energy around someone else's feelings, you can finally focus on stabilizing your own. You start to understand what kind of life environment brings you peace, what routines give you energy, and what kind of mindset helps you evolve. That emotional space gives you the freedom to heal from past wounds, to detach from old habits, and to build a stronger version of yourself from the inside out. Freedom also means financial and lifestyle independence. Being single allows you to manage your money with intention, whether that's saving, investing, studying, building a business, or creating long-term stability. You learn financial discipline and responsibility not because you must, but because you want to build a future you're proud of. You learn how to provide for yourself, spoil yourself, and invest in your growth. You realize that your success is not dependent on finding someone to support you. You are your own support system. And when you reach that level of independence, relationships become a choice, not a survival strategy. You choose love from abundance, not need. You choose companionship from strength, not dependency. And that mindset protects you from falling into toxic or codependent situations. And one of the most empowering aspects of staying single is the freedom to evolve without limits. You don't have to compromise for someone who isn't growing at your pace. You don't have to shrink your ambition to make someone comfortable. You don't have to slow down your life to match someone's insecurity or lack of direction. You can reinvent yourself whenever you want. You can change your goals, move cities, switch careers, build new habits, learn new skills, and create a future that aligns with your highest potential. Freedom during singlehood isn't about being alone. It's about becoming someone so grounded, so fulfilled, and so aligned with your purpose that when love eventually arrives, it fits into your life naturally instead of consuming it. One of the most transformative benefits of staying single is the ability to build strong emotional boundaries and protect your peace. When you are constantly in relationships, especially if you've chosen partners from a place of loneliness or insecurity, your boundaries often blur without you even realizing it. You tolerate behaviors that drain you. You allow emotional access to people who haven't earned it, and you stretch yourself emotionally just to avoid conflict or abandonment. But when you intentionally stay single, you start understanding that emotional peace is not a luxury. It's a necessity. You learn that not everyone deserves access to your mind, your heart, or your emotional space. You become more protective of your energy and more selective about who you allow into your life. During singlehood, you gain clarity about what it feels like to be emotionally safe on your own. You no longer rely on someone else to soothe your anxiety, reassure your worth, or validate your feelings. You create your own emotional environment, one where peace becomes your baseline, not drama. That quiet time helps you recognize the emotional patterns you once normalized. Overthinking someone's mixed signals, losing sleep over someone's inconsistency, being available for people who weren't available for you. With distance, you begin to see how much emotional chaos you accepted simply because you feared losing someone. And with that awareness, you start defining boundaries not to push people away, but to protect your mental and emotional stability. Boundaries become a form of self-respect. You learn to say no without guilt. You learn to stop over-explaining yourself. You learn to distance yourself from people who drain your peace or exploit your feelings. You learn to prioritize your needs instead of sacrificing them for temporary affection. The silence and stability of single life teach you how good it feels to not constantly manage someone else's emotions or justify your own. You finally understand the difference between love and emotional dependency, and you begin choosing peace over attachment. With time, you become comfortable walking away from anything that threatens your mental well-being, even if part of you still cares. This phase also helps you develop emotional discipline. When you have no one else to direct your emotions toward, you learn how to process them maturely instead of reacting impulsively. You learn how to soothe your anxiety without seeking external reassurance. You learn patience instead of chasing. You learn to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. That internal growth builds emotional intelligence, the ability to feel deeply while still staying grounded and steady. Emotional discipline means you no longer let affection cloud your judgment or let loneliness push you into the arms of the wrong people. Your emotions stop controlling your decisions. Your self-awareness does. Another important part of building emotional boundaries is learning the difference between access and intimacy. Just because someone wants to talk to you doesn't mean they deserve your vulnerability. Just because someone shows interest doesn't mean they've earned trust. You begin to understand that genuine connection isn't built by giving pieces of yourself to anyone who asks. It's built by sharing your emotional world with people who show consistency, maturity, and genuine intention. You become more mindful about who you confide in, who you allow close, and who you let influence your emotions. You stop confusing attention with intention and affection with loyalty. You won't let kindness manipulate you, nor will you allow loneliness to mislead you. In this stage, protecting your peace becomes a lifestyle, not a reaction. You create routines, environments, and relationships that nourish you instead of draining you. You stop romanticizing chaos and start valuing emotional clarity. You begin to understand that your peace is your responsibility, not something someone else can grant you. And once you experience what life feels like when you are emotionally stable, grounded, and in control of your boundaries, you never want to go back to the versions of yourself who tolerated stress, confusion, or emotional inconsistency just to feel loved. When you stay single intentionally, you give yourself the gift of becoming whole before inviting someone into your life. This is one of the most important reasons why staying single can be the most powerful decision you make. People often rush into relationships hoping someone else will fill their emotional gaps, heal their wounds, or bring them happiness. But when love becomes a remedy instead of a choice, relationships collapse under unrealistic expectations. Choosing to remain single gives you time to build your inner foundation so you don't enter relationships seeking rescue. You enter ready to build, grow, and connect from a place of fullness rather than lack. During your single season, you begin to understand what you need emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. You learn how to take care of yourself, manage your feelings, and build your life without leaning on someone for reassurance or validation. This self-awareness means you enter future relationships with maturity instead of emotional dependency. You stop picking partners from a place of fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear of failure. Instead, you choose people who match your values, your energy, and your level of emotional responsibility. You are no longer attracted to toxicity disguised as passion or inconsistency disguised as excitement. You crave peace because you've built peace within yourself. This inner growth naturally filters the people around you. When you know your worth and truly feel whole, you stop entertaining emotionally unavailable people, inconsistent attention, and empty promises. You no longer chase validation from anyone who gives you crumbs of affection. You become selective with your heart, not as a defense mechanism, but because you understand the value of emotional energy and time. The person you choose later isn't chosen to complete you. They are chosen because they complement you. And that difference changes everything. Instead of trying to force connection, you allow genuine connection to develop with someone aligned with you, not someone you're settling for. You also begin to recognize red flags faster. Past versions of you may have ignored warning signs because you were afraid of being alone or losing someone. But after learning to stand strong by yourself, you no longer tolerate emotional confusion, mixed signals, manipulation, or disrespect. Your boundaries become a natural filter. People who are serious, intentional, and emotionally stable fit through them. Those who are immature or inconsistent don't even get close. You learn to walk away without hesitation when someone cannot meet you with clarity, honesty, and effort. This emotional lens protects you from repeating unhealthy cycles and helps you attract someone who aligns with the life and love you are building. Another powerful shift happens in your expectations of love. Love stops being about intensity and starts being about consistency. You want connection that brings peace, not chaos. You want loyalty, not games. You want communication, not confusion. You want a partner who grows with you, not someone who holds you back. Because you've already healed, already built yourself, and already filled your own cup, you don't settle for someone who just wants to benefit from your strength without contributing to your peace. You want partnership, not attachment. You want unity, not dependency. And that clarity draws emotionally healthy individuals toward you. By the time love enters your life again, you are not seeking someone to fix you, validate you, or save you. You already did that for yourself. You've built self-esteem, self-control, emotional maturity, and independence. So when someone joins your life, they come into a foundation that is solid, stable, and whole. And because of that, the connection becomes healthier, deeper, and more meaningful. Your future relationship benefits from the work you are doing now. The patience, the healing, the discipline, and the growth you are investing in during your single season, shaping you into someone who loves with strength, presence, and intention instead of fear or insecurity.